Καλησπέρα και καλώς ήρθατε σε άλλη μια λέξη εκφραστικής ανάγνωσης για το 2024. Μπήκε ο Μάρτιος και αφού είναι ο μήνας των γυναικών, τις επόμενες Κυριακές θα διαβάζουμε έργα από γυναίκες, ίσως για γυναίκες μερικές φορές, πάντως από γυναίκες σίγουρα. Σήμερα είχαμε μια ενδιαφέρουσα συζήτηση με τους γονείς μου κάποια στιγμή το μεσημέρι και κατά τη διάρκεια αυτής της συζήτησης θυμήθηκα ένα ιστορικό πρόσωπο, μια απίστευτη πραγματικά γυναίκα που υπήρξε. Άμα διαβάσει κανείς την βιογραφία της και τα όσα πέρασε, φαίνεται μάλλον απίθανο να έχει υπάρξει αυτό το πρόσωπο, αλλά υπήρξε. Και όλος τυχαίως για αυτήν έχει γράψει και μία Αυστραλή συγγραφέας ένα μυθιστόρημα, το οποίο το έχω, εννοείται. Και έτσι σήμερα θα διαβάσω 3 κεφάλαια, είναι σχετικά σύντομα τα κεφάλαια, το μυθιστόρημα είναι λίγο πιο μεγάλο, αλλά τα κεφάλαια αυτά κάθε αυτά είναι σχετικά σύντομα. Πρόκειται για την Julie d'Aubigny, αυτή ήταν μια ιδιάζουσα περίπτωση. Ξαναλέω, μπείτε στη Wikipedia να διαβάσετε έστω το βιογραφικό που έχει εκεί, είναι σύντομο, αλλά τέλος πάντων τι να πούμε. Και πραγματικά μια τρομερά ενδιαφέρουσα προσωπικότητα και queer icon, αν θέλετε, αλλά σήμερα την επιλέγω για την πρώτη γυναίκα του μήνα Μάρτη, τέλος πάντων, για το 2024. Το μυθιστόρημα έχει τον τίτλο Goddess και είναι της Kelly Gardiner. Act 3, Scene 8, Ensemble. Place de Victoire. It's dark. Late. The performance went on far too long and Duménil is tired. He's spent weeks trying to seduce that little bitch Fanchon, and now she's slipped out of reach. Again. He can wait. She can't avoid him forever. Next time, he'll have her. Whether she likes it or not. Next time. His mouth is wet. His shirt damp against his skin. His breeches tight against his manhood. That's just the right word. His mighty manhood. He'll rip Fanchon apart one of these days. Ride her until she screams. Delicious. Sometimes they do scream. He wonders why. His manhood. Yes. His left palm slides down along smooth silk towards his mighty... Here? Does he dare? Nobody about. It's darker under the arcade. Perhaps a shadow slips from behind a wall. A tall, slender figure in a cloak. A shimmer of steel. Ah, perhaps not. The big man halts, glances behind him at empty streets, feels the pulse in his wrists flicker and flow. His tongue on dry lips. Ridiculous. Walk on as if... Don't move. The shadow's voice is soft. I beg your pardon. You heard me. It's a familiar voice, but he can't quite place it. An outrage, monsieur, says Duménil in his best stage manner. Move aside. No. Why, you are the outrage, not me. Duménil gasps aloud. How dare you? Slug. Vermin. Surely this cannot be happening. Not to him. Do you have any idea whom you address, sir? Oh, yes, says the shadow. I am quite sure of that. Duménil, mediocre singer, dreadful actor, lascivious cad, petty thief, molester of young ladies. That's you, is it not? I am none of those things. It must be a mistake, a trick, a little joke played by one of those layabouts in the orchestra. Except the name is mine. Allow me to expound your biography. You are the festering scab on the arse of the Académie, the lowlife who insulted Marie L'A and threatened Fanchon Moreau. You are the heavy breather in the wings, the sweaty hands on a garter, the foul jests that make every woman's skin crawl. That's you. I have no idea what you mean. Duménil looks around again, but there's nobody nearby. Perhaps if he screamed... But no. Move aside! The shadow raises an arm, a weapon, a cane. I am an angel of vengeance, it says. You're a pest, says Dumenil. I will sweep you aside like... Shall we pause while you finish your sentence, or will I beat you now? A duel? Is that what you want? He's never fought a duel, but how hard can it be? Might delay this nastiness until dawn anyway. Plenty of time to hire a carriage and flee to the countryside. Or find an assassin. Or both. I won't sully my honor or my blade with your blood, you louse. Money? Is that it? Dumenil reaches for his purse. You will pay, certainly, but not in coin. The first blow lands on his shoulder. He cries out. Another blow, this one across his head. There's blazing pain in his ear and the warmth of blood on his neck. Another, this time not with a stick, but a fist in the face, a knee in the fat of his gut, and a backhanded slap across his eyes that sends him sprawling in the dirt, hands first, tearing the skin from his knuckles, nails from fingers. Please, please, he's squealing now, and he can hear himself, hates the sound of it, but he can't stop. Please, God! Do you really think God listens to lies like you? A boot in the belly. I'll give you anything, anything. He gurgles blood, maybe teeth. Here's the shadow laughing softly. Everything. I want everything. Scrabbles at his purse strings. There's not much. A gilded snuff-box he pretends is a gift from a mysterious lady. He picked it up at a market in Aix on a tour of the provinces. Pearls stolen from one of the dancers. A silk kerchief with L'E.A.'s initials embroidered in one corner. A few coins. The watch he bought for next to nothing from an old man in Montparnasse. Here, take it all. The shadow bends, scoops it all up in one hand, brings the other fist down hard on his head one last time. You disgust me, it hisses, and is gone. The violins scrape together a few notes to set a tone. It's an hour until tonight's performance, and the crowd is arriving already, people muscling each other aside for the best spots. The quality arrive late, sometimes well after the prologue, which, after all, is only written for the king, and the king these days is never present to hear it. Even Monsieur doesn't care for the prologue. The young ladies like to enter earlier, so they have time to properly discuss the events of the day and admire each other's wardrobe. In the warren of smelly rooms and hallways behind the stage, the gentlemen of the chorus smoke and chatter. Thévenin waxes his beard into a point, dressers race from room to room with sewing needles and ribbons. In a dark corner of the rehearsal room, one of the lesser-known tenors tries to breathe quietly, while a boy from the ballet takes his cock down his throat and sucks hard, the tongue soft and willing, the sensation so exquisite it's almost pain. He comes violently and with a moan that's far too loud in the boy's mouth, in the same moment as Dumenil knocks on the leading lady's door. "My darlings, may I come in?" He breathes in the scent. Musty silks, stale sweat, powder, perfume, singed hair, face paint, the juices of half a dozen whores. A couple of them turn to greet him. There's a satisfying gasp. "What happened to you?" "Oh, a scrap with a jealous husband." He waves a hand. "Please don't pay any attention to me." Pauses for effect. They all know the trick, play it themselves every night, admire his artistry. He seeks out Fanchon Moreau's half-painted face and focuses on it. "I was attacked last night by bandits." They all stop the powdering and hair curling, gasp again, put on their sympathetic faces, clamour at him with questions. "Where?" "Just at the corner of the Rue d'Aubusson and Rue de la Feuillade. You know it?" "Yes, it's not safe there, so dark." Fanchon Moreau comes close, very close, gazing at his bruises. "The place has gone to the dogs," says one of the prettier dancers. "I told you so." "What happened? Sit down, poor creature." "I'm all right." He sits down on Fanchon's chair so his face is level with her breasts. "Don't fuss, please." "But what did they do to you?" she asks. "How many were there?" 6 or 7, maybe more. Evil-looking characters too, pretending to be gentlemen but obviously street scum. Thieves. They threatened you?" Of course. He has spent half the night seeking consolation in various taverns, but every part of him hurts. But I was having none of that. Told them to retire and nobody would be the wiser, but they wouldn't listen to reason. Desperate sorts then. Probably southerners. A lot of them hanging about lately. I fought them off as best I could, but they were too many. "So valiant." Fanchon's voice has an odd tone to it. He checks her face to see if she believes him. She's gazing at him, heart filled with compassion. She's nothing if not a superb actress. I threw one to the ground, dashed another's head against a stone, he says. You see my hand? He holds out his bruised knuckles. That's from punching the leader, the brigand, and bringing him to his knees. You fought like a lion. It's a girl from the ballet he's never noticed before. Must pay more attention in future. And yet, I'm afraid. He lowers his head, disconsolate, brave, but beaten. I was unarmed, one against many. Ah, well, one does what one can. Did they steal anything? Asks Fanchon. My watch? My snuff-box? Nothing of value except... His face saddens. My father's gold watch. All I have to remind me of him, gone. Oh, you poor thing. They crowd around. He smiles courageously as they touch the bruises, black against his flaccid skin. The tall one, the pretty contralto, stands right in front of him, tips her head to one side and surveys his wounds. Enough of your lies, Dumenil. Huh? He looks up. That voice. It was me. Julie can't hide her disgust. She leans down and spits the words into his pathetic face. What are you saying? Your mob of assailants, those legendary bandits against whom you fought so bravely, it was me. This is the very stick with which I caned your pathetic arse. You lie. The woman is a harpy, a menace. Here. The snuff-box clatters to the floor, but he doesn't look at it. He knows she's telling the truth, knows his own coward is better than she could ever imagine, knows that the other women know too. You poltroon, she goes on. She stares in his face as if he doesn't exist, as if he's the only soul left on earth. You make me sick. Lay another hand on any of my friends, and you will not live long enough to regret your baseness. His face beyond fury, beyond pale, the blood in his veins alternating between fire and water. He stares right back as long as he can manage, longer, in fact, than she'd ever believed he would, until his fury is swamped by shame. He falters, stumbles, turns, weeps, scrambles somehow out into the hallway, out into the street and the night and the cinder smoke of Paris. His understudy watches him go, smirks and brushes his wig. In the dressing room the women turn as one on one. You've really fucked it up this time, Julia. What on earth possessed you? But he steals from you. Oh, please. Who anointed you queen? You sapfists, no sense of humour. He threatened to rape Fanchon, Julie shouts over the racket. Have you seen his prig? Fanchon turns back to face the mirror, checks her painted lips. It wouldn't hurt much, believe me. Anyway, I can look after myself. But he's a poltroon. We heard. What's a poltroon? Asks the youngest dancer. Thing is, he's a very rich one, says Fanchon. And well in with the directeur. Oh, come on, you can't really... I should go after him. Make sure he's all right. Fanchon, you can't, says Julie. Julie, please. I suppose he'll be getting drunk at the Lion. But it's half an hour to overture. Leave it to me, Fanchon winks. I know how to deal with him. The others laugh, go back to their makeup, keep talking about him and about her, about rubbish, while Fanchon slips out the door, calling his name. His first name. Like an old friend. Like a lover. Julie sits and stares at the snuff-box until her dresser comes with her goddess's crown. Act 3, Scene 9, Recitative. He grovelled at my feet. Just think of it. 6 feet of quivering haute contre on the floor before me, begging forgiveness and filled with remorse. How he apologized. How he begged their forgiveness and mine. Oh, how they marvelled at my audacity, my power, my sheer... There's no other word for it, forgive me, brilliance. Nope, that's what I told myself, what I told everyone. But now, the truth. You speak of forgiveness. Why is it that men can be forgiven so much, in life and in death? When I was little, I forgave my father time and time again. I suppose I even loved him in a way. I can't forgive Dumenil, not even now, for all his petty lies and crimes. He deserved a good beating. From that day on, I swear to you, the braggart didn't dare lay his cowardly hands on any of those women, unless, of course, the women wished it, which I must admit they sometimes did. Even Fanchon, sweet Fanchon. Well, she went on with her life as if nothing had happened. They all did. But I was her champion, surely. Like the knights in the old tales, in the ballads, I wore her handkerchief at my breast, I defended her from evil, I kept her safe from straying hands, although I can admit now that sometimes she might have preferred if I hadn't. She was a bit of a flirt. I can admit, too, that I was as susceptible to it as a Dumenil, as a Dauphin, as half the men in France. I imagined, that her smiles were meant only for me, and that my own charms were irresistible. I see it now, all of it, but I'm not ashamed, not of that. It's funny, but it appeared to me then that I could have anyone I wanted. Indeed, I did. Too often I had lovers I didn't even want. A pretty smile, a strong thigh, the most handsome man, the loveliest woman, whoever. If there was someone who seemed untouchable, I wanted to be the first to touch them. If there was a girl begging to be kissed, then let my lips be her first. I confess my choices weren't always wise. If I was a little drunk or a little foolhardy, I might wake up next to someone I barely even liked or remembered. True enough, sad even, for them, sometimes for me. I couldn't love them, none of them, not really. They couldn't touch me, I wouldn't allow it, but that's enough. I'll say no more about that. I'm not proud of it. Well, not all of it anyway, but that's how it was in those first few months, the first year or so of being me, of being L'A. Heady times, perhaps a little too much so. I was too fabulous, too young, 18 years old, with the world throwing itself at my feet, sending me flowers and wine and sides of pork and daughters and more wine, and it's a wonder I ever got out of bed to go to rehearsal. I don't recommend it. People were envious of me too, even L.E.A., even D'Albert, strutting back into town after some battle or other, a war hero, a darling. Told everyone I was his woman, again. Sorted that out soon enough. I threatened to run him through again, and heard no more about it. I'm nobody's woman. Never was. Never wanted to be. Not since Avignon, since Clara. Had refused plenty of offers, some very lucrative, as if I care about that. I don't mind someone looking after me, don't get me wrong. I won't turn away the odd bouquet, a trinket, a fine mare. I'm not an idiot, but I do get fidgety. Hate obligation. I am likely to lash out like a horse unused to traces. There did come a time when I gave myself up, freely, to be possessed, to be as one. But no, I can't tell you about that. Not yet. I will. I have to. Or there will be no one to bear witness, no one to remember her and me, and one moment in a ballroom. But what am I saying? Half of Paris was there. It's not something any of them will ever forget. Act 3, Scene 10, Divertissement. There, in the middle of the room, a girl. Of surpassing beauty, as they say in the romance novels. Of heart-rupturing beauty. She's listening to an old man talk as if he were the most important person on earth. Julie knows that trick, knows it well. The girl is a master at it. She's smiling now, deep into his eyes, nods as he bows, takes his leave, and relinquishes her to a crowd of impatient young men. Then she looks up. Does the earth really shatter? Julie hardly knows. Her pulse, her lungs, her life contract to nothing, so that she dies right there on the polished floors of the Palais Royal ballroom, and nobody even knows, nobody sees it, nobody realizes except her and the girl, who is also dead, who no longer breathes or feels her heart or her body or anything except a flaming certainty that her life has, in this moment, altered forever, and the room and the chatter drop away and there's nobody there, just the two of them. Someone dances through, slashes through, the shaft of light that connects them, and they both jolt back into breath, into life, like drowning men brought ashore, panting and sick and frightened and more alive than anyone, ever. Then the girl is out of sight, lost in the crowd as Monsieur and Madame enter the ballroom. Everyone bows to their highnesses, shuffling in their slippers, a million yards of silk rustling at the same time, a cloud of butterflies. But where? Where is she? Julie is the first to move. She can't help it. She pushes someone aside, apologizes, sidesteps a dowager sunk in a deep curtsy. So many people. What are they doing here? Why are they in her way, in her world, when all she wants is the girl? Even a glimpse, even a... The orchestra strikes up a coranto. Monsieur loves a coranto, although he always wishes, that just once he could dance it with his love instead of with this princess he married. But instead he takes her hand and leads her onto the floor and simply pretends, as he always does, that he's dancing with Philippe. He reminds himself that it's Philippe's body he will feel against his tonight, the hard backbone, the rough skin on his throat, and not his wife's fleshy thighs. But her hand is in his, and he can feel the sweat in her palm as the dance picks up a tempo, and it's all he can do not to walk out right now, with the whole of Paris watching, down the mirrored hallways and marble stairs, past the tapestries and the oblivious footmen, across the forecourt and home to his bedchamber and his man. But he knows his duty. He's the brother of the greatest king in history. He's a radiant ornament in the court of the sun. His duty is to dance, so he does. Smiles and applauds the orchestra, nods to the senior courtiers, winks at his friends, notices that the tall contralto from the Academy is wearing men's clothes, crimson silk amid the gowns and petticoats and fluttering fans. Her sword doesn't look entirely ceremonial, and she appears to be either ravaged and desperate or badly hungover. This, she, could be fun. Monsieur makes himself comfortable on what passes for a throne at these things and motions for a glass of wine, a footstool, perhaps some ice cream. He's ready to watch the show. There's a black-haired page whose breeches are far too tight for his own good, and who dances the next set so obviously in Monsieur's sight that even the prince himself is slightly repelled. If they present themselves as meat, they cannot complain if they are devoured. The opera singer creates a flurry in the corner, pushing someone out of her way like an old woman at the market stall. She's so tall, so, well, remarkable. Monsieur can't stop watching her, even though she's moving fast through the crowd. She seems to have lost something, or someone. There. A girl. She and the singer stand and gaze at each other from a distance for what feels like an hour. Monsieur waves to one of Madame's ladies. The girl with the green eyes, the blonde, over there, with a bête noire. She glances over quickly. That's the Marquise de Florensac, Your Grace. Ah, the young bride. We've not seen her at court a great deal. They spend all their time at the chateau. Her husband abhors company. Understandably. She's the daughter of Saint-Nectaire. You see, she has his eyes. She's pretty. Very, Your Grace. She lowers her voice to whisper. And wealthy, so I hear, in her own right. Do you wish her to be presented? No, he waves her away. No matter. The young marquise is standing perfectly still amongst the swirling dancers. She has forgotten the steps, ignores Noye, who stands embarrassed by her side. She has forgotten everything but that extraordinary, beautiful, wild creature in breeches and sword belt. Monsieur stares. He knows, sees who they are. Two souls who recognize each other's essence in an instant. This instant. He feels for her, for them. What a tragedy they perform. Each of them, no doubt, dressed this evening with care, admired her brilliant face in a looking-glass, smiled at the thought of the evening ahead, of the flaring candles and swish of silk and laughter, but with no idea that tonight she would meet the one person in this world she cannot, and inevitably must, live without. Monsieur moans softly, the pity of it. But look! Julie walks through the empty spaces on the dance floor. It's a trance, perhaps, a spell. Her body is drawn forward, beyond her control, bewitched. The dancers move around her, sweating and giggling, but she doesn't hear them, and the girl waits for her, still as a stone in a stream, in the centre, where she stops. Takes the perfect face in both hands, the blessed, magical skin against hers, leans down and kisses her own soul, kisses lips that are soft, are hers, are home. There is a moment of complete silence. Monsieur holds his breath. Madame gasps. Then all the fury in the world erupts. Julie staggers back, shoved away by Abbé Noy. He raises a fist and she lets it land. Nothing hurts except her heart. Someone grabs the girl and drags her away through the crowd, but Julie cannot move. Not because of the men that stand in her path, but her own stunned self. Her life is over. That's all there is. But they will not leave her in peace. Men are shouting at her, everyone at once, and Monsieur watches as she shakes her head like a boxer staggered by a blow, stares around her, and tries to walk away. They won't let her. Noye grasps her arm. She shrugs him off, but he grabs at her again. She blinks. What? You have insulted the Marquise de Florensac! Is that her name, de Florensac? Perhaps she's married. Pity, but no real obstacle. Don't you dare let that name pass your lips. These lips, she thinks, have done more than speak the name. They've sealed a pact. The lips part in a smile. Noye hisses at her. Mademoiselle de Maupin, you wear that sword like a man. I hope you're ready to die like one. She shrugs. You don't want to fight me. No, I want to grind your face into the ground. An unlikely outcome. I want to pierce your sinful heart. Enough threats. Julie pushes him away. I understand. A duel. I will not honor it with that title, he says. Another smile. Call it what you will. Meet me at midnight in the Rue Saint-Thomas-de-Louvre. She turns away from him. Before her stands that pup from the house of Duzé. She knows him from long ago, carousing with D'Albert. Move aside, sir, if you please. What kind of demon are you? She sighs. He's not going to shut up. Are you a man or a devil? Neither, idiot. You know who I am. Out of my way. You have sullied the reputation of my brother, his wife. Let me guess, she says, peering over his shoulder in the direction of the spot where once an angel kissed her. You want to challenge me? Challenge you, says Duzé with a sneer. So you do declare yourself to be a man? Not at all. But I'll fight you, since you will insist, and I don't care. My seconds will call upon you to make arrangements. Don't bother, Duzé. Meet me at midnight in the Rue Saint-Thomas-du-Louvre. A tap on her shoulder. She turns. A young man looking as terrified as Tavernas on opening night. He tries to speak. Fails, then splutters. You insulted my cousin. You know her? Marie-Thérèse, of course. She lifts her head and glares around the room. Is there anyone here who is not her relation? The boy blinks. Tries again. My family's honor. It's impugned, and I... Midnight, Rue Saint-Thomas-du-Louvre. She shouts it. Anyone else? There's silence. Always silence. Very well. Then she's gone. Midnight in the Rue Saint-Thomas-du-Louvre. She stands waiting, sword drawn. A full moon. Clouds. Shadows. The river. The cousin is the first to arrive. His chaise halts near the corner. His friends hang back, not sure of the protocol. They are young. None of them has seen a real duel before. And this is perverse. A duel with a woman? A clatter of heels on the stones. Abbé Noy has come alone. He told no one of the duel. Challenged too hastily, didn't consider the dishonor. There'll be no end of trouble if his father hears he's been fighting a woman. A whore from the Opéra. His temper gets away from him sometimes. It's the wine. Must stop that. Next week. But now, let's get this over, says Noy. The woman smiles. Gently, gently. A little patience, my lord. You wish to withdraw? Not at all, she says. Then, I'm waiting. There's another. Another what? The impudence of her. Noy notices the cousin for the first time. What are you doing here? I challenged him, says the boy. Her, I mean. For the love of God. So did Duzé. 3 of us. So it seems. Duzé arrives, borrowed sword in hand. He nods a greeting to the other men. You too? I challenged first, says Noy. I'll kill her. Good. Then I won't have to. The cousin sounds hopeful. He likes this duel idea less and less. It seemed so obvious at the ball, as if he really had no choice. But nobody's ever challenged a woman before. Now everyone's done it at once. He glances quickly at her. She seems too unearthly, too still. Not afraid, not in the least. It's terribly dark, he says. Why aren't the lamps lit? Noy looks around and shrugs. What difference does it make? The damned woman raises her sword. We commence. Julie salutes, the blade gleaming in the darkness. Noy won't salute, but he steps forward. Stand aside, my friends. No need for such delicacy, she says. I can take you all at once. They laugh then. All of them, even the boy. She doesn't smile. This is becoming tedious. She lunges. They don't see what happened. Her sword is too fast. Only the Noy staggers against a water trough and slumps to the ground. Duzé doesn't hesitate, doesn't salute. He moves quickly, throwing himself into a flash, intended to knock her off her feet. Instead, she sidesteps, thrusts as he passes, and he crashes into the wall opposite, blood swelling through his shirt. There's a shriek, then nothing. But he's not dead, just quivering in fury and shame and filth. Further along Rue Saint-Honoré, the young man's friends leap into his chaise and whip the horses into a gallop. Then they're gone. The woman turns. Now you? She salutes the cousin, who wishes with all his heart he had never been born into the same family as Marie-Thérèse, decides he never really liked her anyway, remembers that one summer she pushed him off a chair and everyone laughed. But he's a nobleman. This is the first of those moments he has trained for all his life. He salutes. En garde. Now the woman smiles. You've never done this before, have you? That's of no consequence. You're scared. That's sensible. And a better man than those two. I see no arrogance in you. He clenches his fingers even more tightly around his sword grip. He notices that the tip of his blade is quivering. I will do my duty. Yes, you will, she says. I see that. Thank God. She doesn't aim for his body. He is Marie-Therèse's cousin, after all. He even has her eyes, not quite the green of a sultan's emerald, but a shade lighter. When the blade pierces his arm, he barely notices at first. A slight tearing sensation. He looks down. Oh, he says, touché. The contrary would have surprised me. I'm bleeding. Just a little. You'll recover. He falls sideways, curls up on the cobblestones. She wipes the blood from her sword with a scarf. Looks down. You were brave. I'll send someone to take care of you. He gazes up at her, so beautiful for a monster. Thank you. She bows. An honor. The boy sees only a flick of her cape as she vanishes into the dark. Monsieur can't hide his smile when she returns to the ball. Everyone gasps at once. One woman faints. The orchestra falters. The singer is looking for the girl, of course. But the girl has been taken home, locked in her room, no doubt, perhaps whipped by a humiliated husband. The three men are nowhere to be seen, which means, well, it couldn't possibly mean, could it? An evening of gasps. Wait until he tells Philippe. The two of them have always secretly enjoyed L'A extravagance, her dramatic performances, her disdain for the witty tongues and tearing teeth of the salons. They've loved her more than most, because her every outrage causes d'Armagnac pain, and he, Philippe's older, contemptible brother, has created nothing but anguish for the lovers. Tomorrow morning, when d'Armagnac hears the news, he'll be apoplectic. How wonderful! A horrified whisper sweeps the room. Word has reached them. 3 duels, 3 victories. Even the noble Duzé lies dead in the street, or the gardens. Well, perhaps they aren't dead, but mortally, treacherously wounded. Treachery is certain, or possibly sorcery, for who can believe that the opera singer could defeat the court's finest hotheads? Monsieur waves to a page. Bring her to me. The young man gapes at him, mortified. What next? Now. The woman in breeches bows before him, lifts her face, and looks into his eyes as no one but his beloved Philippe is brave enough to do. Your Grace, she begins. In the Rue Saint-Thomas du Louvre, three gentlemen lie stretched on the street. Less than an hour ago they were excessively hot in the head, but the night air might perhaps chill them. Kindly give orders that they be attended by a surgeon. He raises a finger, and it is done. You're a chevalier, after all, I see, says Monsieur. Your name, sir? I am no chevalier, but Julie, Mademoiselle de Maupin. I knew you, of course. Still performing your old tricks? I have heard you sing. Your debut was as Pallas Athena, I recall, and here you are, come among us as an Amazon. Her head bows. Rise, he says. Look at me. She does. His heart is still sore for her, for the girl. My brother the king has banned dueling. You must know this. Forgive me. I was challenged. By 3 men? How can that be? I provoked them, she admits. I didn't mean to. They took exception to I saw it. She presses her lips together. You're wounded? He asks. Not by a blade. Your Grace knows that I do not kill His Majesty's subjects, and that there are sweeter meetings than are found at a sword's point. He can't speak of it. His chest constricts with something like sorrow, something like love, like the ferocity he felt when he first held his son. A murderously protective, incomprehensible ache. But you fought, in the street, with 3 men. Not all at once, Your Grace, although I could have. I have no doubt. Laughter bubbles in his throat, and he fights it down. The courtiers are watchful. We'll report it all to Louis, and he'll get all righteous and kingly, and there'll be a scene. So Monsieur hides his smile behind a one-gloved hand. Be still, gadfly. Consider yourself chastened. I reprimand you on behalf of the king. He says it aloud so they can all hear. She drops to one knee. She's seen the baritones do that many a time on stage, offering themselves up to some god or other. Then Monsieur leans forward and whispers, If I were you, I'd leave the city for a while. Months. My brother will be angry, and your victims, the girl's family, they'll be crying out for blood. The house of Duzé is prickly enough at the best of times. You'll be safer elsewhere. Anywhere. I only just found her. She sinks further down, onto both knees. I know, but you will find her again. Believe me. Do you need anything? Money? Julie looks up, surprised. Your Grace's friendship is enough. You have it. Ask my brother, the king, he will tell you. I have a soft spot for circus performers, stray dogs, and contraltos in breeches. I forgive them any trespass, and I celebrate their goodness, their uniqueness, with all my might. You are very good, your grace. Yes, I am, Monsieur smiles. Julie sees the bad teeth, the thinning face, the humanity of him. Go now. Return only when it's safe. One day you will appear again on stage with the Opera, and all will be forgiven. I promise. After she leaves, he sits and watches more dancing, fidgets, drinks too much. This is his world, the alternative court of France. Some say the more civilized court, more cultured, more circumspect than Versailles, more fashionable. Monsieur holds court just as theatrically as his brother, but he allows his subjects closer to him. Too close, it is thought in certain quarters. He likes people, which his brother does not. He likes talking with women, adores sleeping with men, loves watching them all, dancing, loving, fighting, being human. Some of them he likes more than others, he cannot lie. He feels too much, loves too deeply, his real vice. Madame chatters with her flock of ladies, all pretending not to be thrilled at the evening's unexpected excitement and desperate for the night to be over, so they can discuss it all again in the morning in the comfort of the boudoir. Monsieur imagines the dark hours ahead, in bed with Philippe. The tales he'll be able to tell, in whispers, Philippe's face when he hears about the kiss, their stifled laughter when they think about those 3 buffoons falling to the sword of L.A. The idiots! Can't they see the fire in her? Can't they see past the breeches to the fine porcelain heart? No. But I see her, and she sees the truth in me. In her I am purified. Philippe is purified. For now we know that our love can be as perfect as that one kiss I witnessed this evening. We are not evil. We are drenched in sunlight. By those lips we were blessed. Monsieur smears tears across his face, wonders what L.A. would say if she knew his thoughts. I'm an old fool. There's a flurry of fans. He sighs. His wife is waving at him. Monsieur, I am bored. Nothing interesting ever happens in Paris. Calo Bravi.